Thank you both for joining us. I was just saying that we had it was Kat and Martin on from the Trust a couple of years ago. That was more about the overall price of football, which I don't think has changed. It's probably got worse in the 2 years we've spoken to them. But you guys have started a new campaign, fill our home, find our voice, a sort of a 6-point campaign. I think I can get it up on the screen here. I'll just quickly read through the 6 points. Cheaper match ticket pricing, particularly for midweek home cup ties. Extend the young adult category to 18 to 25. Point 3, young adult concessions for all matches. Point 4, concessions throughout the South Stand for all children and young adults. Point 5, young adult tickets to be available on the ticket exchange. And point 6, opt in for season ticket holders to allow their seat to be resold at concession rate. This is all about, certainly affordability and accessibility for young fans. What's the process, Rachel? What's the process of getting this to the club, and how do you get them to listen?
I mean, none of these ideas, actually, maybe one of them, but most of these ideas we've been talking about with the club for a long time. Through the Trust, through our Memorandum of Understanding meetings, we have 3 formal meetings with the club every year. And we also talk to the club every day on various issues. So these ideas will have been put forward often, but also my colleague Steve Cavalier and I are on the fan advisory board. So we've been putting those ideas through there as well. And basically, it's very clear that since, particularly since Sonny left, his supporters have gone with him, and most of them, I mean, it's lovely to see that lots of them, some of them do still support Tottenham and still stay at the ground, but there are a lot of spaces. And so we've been talking to them about how we address that. So, for example, at the beginning of the season, when they announced that they were going to restrict ticket share to members only, we said this is not going to work. I mean, we're obviously opposed to it, but it's you're cutting off your nose to spite your face, because there are already less people coming, and you're now making it harder for people to share their ticket if they can't come. So, it just doesn't make any sense to bring this in now, along with other things that we've addressed. So we also talk with the club. I'm on the Atmosphere Working Group, for example, through the Fan Advisory Board, and we work with Return of the Shelf, THFC Flags, and the club on a formal basis to address the atmosphere. And again, it's about helping them to understand that atmosphere it's not something you can just plan and play some music and do some fantastic light shows and then expect atmosphere to sort of carry on throughout the game and be generated because of that. That isn't what builds atmosphere. Atmosphere is us, the fans. And it's, the players have a responsibility, and the results have an impact. And obviously, if the game is dead boring and, where we've gone down 1 goal within the first couple of minutes, and everyone gets understandably really frustrated, the light show, that impact has gone, and it's basically you need to fill the stands with Spurs fans firstly, young Spurs fans preferably, and the people who will be there in the future. So we have said that to them over and over again. We then told them we're going to be doing this as a public campaign. It is not that we're, it's not a sort of a case of really calling the club out or anything. We're just saying you need to do this. If we all want the same thing, if we all work together, then we can get that atmosphere back. The players want it, the manager wants it, the club wants it, we all want it. So work with us, take on some of our ideas, if not all of them.
Can I just confirm, a few people, when you put your tweet out, a lot of people were going, what about the seniors? What about this one? There are other campaigns still running? Or is it... Yeah. Okay, so it's not just that these things have not been forgotten. There's a lot of things on the table at the moment.
There's loads of things. I mean, we're working on, you know, the unfair away allocations, the way, that's a closed shop. We're working on expanding the senior offer. We have got some shift on that. They are actually agreeing to replenish the senior concessions up to the given number that there was before. Um, but we're talking about atmosphere here. We're talking about how do you build the fan base, to build the noise and to be excited and to come week after week, year after year, decade after decade.
Something to pick up on what you just said about the membership. Everybody knows now that you have to be a member. You pay 50 quid and then you can join the ticket sharing program. On the face of it, that just looks like a way of charging people regardless of how many times they want to come, whereas of course before you could forward on your ticket. So it looks like a bit of a money grab from a fan's point of view. What reasoning did the club give to you, or were they fully upfront and said this is a sort of commercial decision? And also, when you're putting these kind of things to the club, do they understand sort of the fans' point of view, or does it sort of come back to you as you don't really you yourselves don't understand the commercial side of what the club is trying to do?
Yeah, they would say, and I have a tiny bit of sympathy with this, is that it's a way of stopping bots and touts. Okay, so I can sort of understand on some of their principles that that's what they're trying to do, and they're trying to make sure, as we want it to be, that it is Spurs fans in Spurs seats. But we always find that we're given the great news that we've achieved a freeze on season ticket prices, and then and then this is brought in at the very last minute without any consultation whatsoever. And we have the whole fan advisory board, the trust has relentlessly fought this, and we are confident that there will be some good news soon.
This is a question for both of you. You say you're in contact with the club quite a lot. I just want to know what the reaction from the club was sort of after the Champions League games, because much has been made about these two Champions League games and the Dortmund game. I know they've changed the pricing category, but I believe that apart from the Doncaster game, that the two Champions League games are by far the lowest attendances of the season. And, this is supposed to be Europe's elite competition. And we've got a massive game against Copenhagen a few weeks ago, and the ground's 20% empty. TNT commentators are using it, speaking about it, calling out the club, and speaking about how expensive the prices are. It's a bit embarrassing for the club, is it not?
Absolutely. I mean, I've just come in. Look, Rachel and Steve doing most of the heavy lifting on the fab and all the rest of it. But what I think has become evidently more clearer is that those fixtures and just to point around, because I've seen some noise around this is just about young people, but it isn't just about young people. Affordability and realistic ticket pricing applies to everybody, and Rachel and I, like giving away too many state secrets or a certain vintage, shall we say.
Very good one.
And I think what's noticeable, and certainly from we was looking at, I've got a friend of mine who's a Bristol City avid follower, and he always sends me the Bristol Rovers 9-0 clip from 48 years ago. And both Rachel and I were actually at that game. And what's noticeable when you look at the YouTube footage on that, when it pans into the crowd, is the amount of young people that are following Spurs. Now, that's getting lost in the way. So whilst affordability and young concessions, both of those things are paramount, the club also has I hate the word business, but it operates as a business. It calls us customers. At times it ignores some of those business principles. And one of those things is about creating the next generation of Spurs fans. And so that's got to be in the interest of everybody, supporters and the club.
You mentioned point 4, concessions throughout the South Stand for children and young adults at every match. I've been a season ticket holder since '87. It was a lot. I went with my dad and my grandpa. Seemed back in the day a lot easier for young kids to go with their fathers and grandfathers and as a family. My son's not a season ticket holder. It's going to be very difficult to get him a season ticket. If I want to get him a season ticket, I've got to move to a certain areas, which I believe is some corners of the South Stand or in the North Stand in the family area, if I want to pay a junior price. Out of interest, why? If I want to get him a ticket for a Champions League game, I've got to hope the bloke next to me doesn't go, and I buy him an adult ticket. I had to buy him an adult ticket for Copenhagen, which is absolutely ludicrous and a disgrace. Why are we closing this in on just certain areas? Why can't there be concessions throughout the ground?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree, and that is the Trust's policy, and that's what we've been arguing since the day dot. But you know, basically, we're going for one thing first, which is, the South Stand was built. The idea behind the South Stand was to have the yellow wall of Dortmund. Why they then put an 1882 section across the middle of it to ensure that any atmosphere is broken up, I don't know.
Well, we do know.
Yeah, basically, well, yeah, we do know. But yeah, basically, we sort of let's start with the South, and work from there. We've had people saying we don't want children in the South Stand. Well, children. I mean, I personally think, yes, you should want children in the South Stand, but try telling a 14-year-old that they don't make a noise, or a 16-year-old. You're basically not allowing them to come unless their parents can afford to buy them an adult ticket. And ironically, I went to the club recently to speak to their young advisory panel that has been just set up. And it was a group of absolutely inspiring young people aged between 11 and 16. And I was supposed to be talking to them about fan engagement. But much more importantly, I listened to them. And I really hope the club did too, because that was one of the points they said. And there was this fantastic young person who said, I'm 16 and I want to be in the South Stand. I want to make a noise, but my dad has to pay for an adult price for me.
Yeah.
That is wrong.
Yeah, and one of our viewers just asked you, has the attitude towards these issues changed since Daniel Levy's gone? Look, I don't need you to twist a knife or say anything, mention any names, but obviously every single week at the moment we seem to be seeing a different person appointed to a certain position at Spurs. There's obviously a lot going on. Vinay's come in and Miss Lewis is here and Daniel Levy's gone. You don't have to name names, but have you noticed a potential change? Are you seeing more positive signs? Arsenal fans will tell you Vinay did great. Some will tell you he did nothing. I have to say, you look down the road, they have certainly dealt with the fan engagement. I know fans still have issues with ticket pricing there, but their match day experience does seem to have changed, and the atmosphere there is good, and their home form is brilliant, partly because of the way they've dealt with the fan engagement. But do you see any signs of change?
I think Rachel obviously deals with the detailed points because she's had more direct involvement through the FAB and the rest of it. But certainly, what is noticeable over the last month or so since the change is the level of communication, and the communications is night and day from what it was previously. I mean, it couldn't have been much worse in my opinion, but that is noticeable. I think the fan forum, was not open enough, but certainly it didn't feel as kind of restricted as previous engagement forums of such a nature. So I think, in broad terms, I think things are starting to change. The details, I say, and Rachel might want to go into some of that, but I think it's early days, but I certainly think there is a kind of freshness about the responses. And I think it's one of the reasons why we've launched the campaign as well now, is to tease that out, to say, okay, the communication is getting better. You seem to want more engagement. Well, the proof of the pudding, as everyone has said, is in the eating, isn't it? So let's see where that goes and what the club's response is to it.
Do you think realistically any of these things would be implemented mid-season, or are we looking now probably for next season?
Well, some of the things in particular, they've already done one, haven't they? Because they've reduced the categorisation of the Dortmund game, I think it is.
Yeah.
So you could say, that's probably a direct response to empty seats. And the other thing that it was noticeable in the in some of those games, it's not just you still got the stewarding costs, you still got the match day staffing costs. So if you don't lower some of the pricing, even from a business point of view, it doesn't make any sense to me. Certainly, coming out the stadium on those nights when you see people standing around really, with less attendance having to be paid, it doesn't make any sense from a business position either. If you've got more people in the stand, they're going to buy stuff, more likely to buy stuff, and they're more likely to spend money on beers and drinks for etc., food, etc. And so some of it is a unrealistic position in the first place. But I think they are starting to listen. How quickly and how quickly they respond, we shall see.
On the ticket pricing for the Champions League, I can't remember which season it was. Was it Wembley, maybe White Hart Lane? When they did a package, we only had 3 home games.
It was Wembley.
It was at Wembley. We had a
Well,
package.
it was the year before we were at Wembley, but we just played the Champions League
That's
game.
right.
So.
When the ticket pricing came out, were you straight, however you communicate, on the phone, on the email, saying, this is a bad idea, you're going to have empty seats here?
Totally, yeah. I mean, they asked us beforehand. We told them very clearly, and they made their decision. And we said, it absolutely won't work. I think there's a very big difference between, if your category A, what could potentially be your category A game. Let's be honest, if it was Real Madrid,
well,
it would be a different question, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
But Dortmund has not got the draw of. I'm delighted that we've got Dortmund, but but not. I'm not the one in charge of the finances. I'm thinking about who could we possibly beat. But Real Madrid, you would get all the usual people, but you'd also get anyone who wants to, come and see Real Madrid as well.
But surely it benefits everyone by doing a package, because the club get a load of money up front, and the stadiums are guaranteed to be filled. And even if we weren't doing great in the first few games, fans will generally go. I remember the CSK Moscow game when we were out. Right, it was the last group game. We were already out, and it was a pretty decent crowd at Wembley for CSK Moscow, because people had already committed.
And actually, this format, there are even more games where it's sort of like, really, is there any jeopardy here? We totally ask for the package every year, and there's some reason, there's some rule about with UEFA that you can't charge charge away fans less than the home fans, because actually people got a discount. They got a refund, didn't they, for the one of the German I've forgotten the name.
Was it?
Frankfurt, that's right. Sorry. There's some sort of spaghetti sort of reason why that isn't going to happen. The package was basically put in because they had Wembley to fill. So you had massive number of tickets. I think the club genuinely felt that enough Spurs fans would want to come and see us in the Champions League, because, it's the Champions League. But they just don't understand that actually people want to come and see a winning team, and they have a limited amount of money. And so all of those sort of things, and the lack of jeopardy and the lack of glamorous teams as well, are going to stop people. But they have responded. And your question about will it be next season or this season, I am expecting a change to one of their policies, which I can't say, but I'm imminently, actually, and to take place immediately. So I think the club are very aware that they've got to do something about these prices.
Your name on Twitter, I hope you don't mind me saying, Rachel Martin, legacy fan. You're not the only one who puts that sort of moniker on it, and that's sort of a tongue-in-cheek thing. It happened a few years ago.
Yeah.
Do you think was there really, again, this is going back to the Levy era, which has only just finished, do you think there really was a conscious decision to sort of go, do you know what, this is not about the old guys anymore, this is all about tourists, and did they really make a decision to start pricing people out? Or was it just an unfortunate mistake, and now we've got to rein it back in?
I don't think they necessarily thought, oh, we don't want her coming anymore, we'll price her out. But I don't think that people like me were in their thinking. When I do think that the conscious sort of business strategy was global, basically build the brand. I do think people like me could be utterly taken for granted. We don't go into the shop every week and buy a new kit. We do buy the odd thing. This is an official from the shop. And I have to say, when we won the Europa League, I couldn't wait to get to the shop and buy the the Europa League final shirt. You know, you buy things when you're winning.
Well,
But we are not the target market. I still don't think we are. It's about trying to grow the brand. But if you're losing people, hemorrhaging them out the other end, you know, you've got an uphill battle. And then when somebody leaves, it shows. We are the people who they can rely on, and they should cherish us, actually.
Yeah.
All the fans, you
Yeah.
know.
I've one more question, which has been a burning issue for me for the last 4 or 5 months. They changed the resale structure for season ticket holders, that you now, if it gets sold on the exchange, you get 1/19 of the value of your total season ticket, whereas in previous years you would get whatever the category price was for that specific game. So now you basically get the same regardless of who the opposition is. But I presume that my seat still gets sold at the relevant category prices to the person that buys it on the exchange. So where does the difference that the club that goes to the club, does it, the difference in price?
Yeah, I mean, they're basically saying that it evens itself out over the year, and that some people, according to their data, will buy a season ticket and then sell all their category A games, and that's not in the spirit of a season ticket. But actually, it's up to you, isn't it, really? And of course, which do you think is going to be easier to sell on the exchange? The glamorous category A games. You know that if you put your season ticket on the exchange for Man United, it will sell. You put it on for Brentford, let's say. I mean, I love Brentford. If you put it on, it's not guaranteed to sell, is it? Because let's be honest, it's gone to guest sale.
Yeah.
So has Fulham. And this really drums our point home, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You know.
2 questions. Sorry, can I just ask from our viewers, if you don't mind? I think the answer to this is long gone now. Flanners says, have there been any decisions about getting 2 free cup tickets back? They went when we moved to Wembley and never came back. I don't know any club that actually does that anymore.
Arsenal have that.
Do they have it? Okay. And Christopher asked, what prices did the trust actually suggest for the Champions League? So will free cup tickets come back? I suspect that will be a no. And what prices did you guys suggest for Champions League games?
Yeah, for the Europa League, for the Champions League, we said keep the prices the same as for the Europa League. Basically, sell the stadium, sell all the tickets. Don't don't try and milk it for everything, because you will not sell out. And obviously, we would have gone for, if they'd gone for category C for everything. Because actually category C works better for some people at the moment, because you do get concessions if it's a category game. At the moment, if it's a flat rate, so like for cup games, for the Carling Cup, Carabao Cup, Worthington Cup,
Milk Cup.
Milk Cup.
Milk Cup, you don't get a concession. So because they say they've already given it to you in the pricing. So actually for seniors, it's better to be category C. But yeah, we said keep it at that and wait and see who we get before you decide on the glamour teams and see how much they get. Sorry, what was the other question?
Free cup tickets, is that a thing of the past?
Yeah, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
I mean,
we
pay more, get less.
On about it for years, but it's very, very unlikely it would ever come back.
All right, so just to finish off, you've mentioned that hopefully one of the points on the 6 here that we've got on our screen will hopefully be sorted soon. How confident are you? I mean, you might not see all 6 get passed, but how confident are you might move in the right direction?
I think we're reasonably confident. I did say the proof of the pudding of I keep using this expression, new ownership, but it's not the new rebranded ownership. And the new appointees is that they are, on the face of it, giving all the right signals of wanting and wishing to listen and to be a little bit more proactive. So, look, with any campaign, I'm new to the trust, incidentally. I've only just kind of got involved. I just want to big up, while I got the opportunity, Rachel, Steve, Michael, all the other people in the trust who do a lot of good work. and you're there to be shot at, and shot at we do get. So it's a new experience for me. But I mean, we want to get involved. Let's put it this way: we've got more chance of doing things or achieving things if we're on the front foot, engaging with people, challenging the club, and I know the Trust do that. And do that consistently and on a real frequent basis. So we're optimistic, reasonably optimistic, but we've got to keep pushing, and that is the nature of every campaign. I just want to stress, though, this is focused about on young, next generation, but it's also all the work the Trust does is for all the supporter groups. And so I just want to underline that. Sorry, Rachel.
You say that, Mark. If I go with my son, he's helping me, and if my dad would love to go with his grandson, they got to remember this is.
Well, actually, on that point, I was talking to my brother. He's a season ticket holder in the South Stand. I'm in the North Stand. I mean, there's a story in itself. When the stadium was opened, it was all done in phases, wasn't it? And there was about 20 of us previously used to sit together, and then some people wanted to go some in one end, others because of the concessions as well. So I stayed up in the North Stand because another fellow I go with is now in his 80s. He got concessions at the time. I didn't want to move away from him because I've been sitting next to him for 20 odd years. So even that is a demonstration of not really listening to fans. But on the point, my brother now wants to take his grandson, who's about 8, who's really getting interested in football, and it's making it incredibly difficult. And that's your point.
Just one last question for Rachel. Some of the kind of counter argument I've seen is there would be less of an issue if we were winning. Would the stadium have been fuller? I know what you were saying about the prices, but do you think that's fair at all in a time when a team is playing better football, winning more games? Obviously, we won the Europa League last season, but the Premier League form was obviously atrocious. Do you think there's any credence to that statement at all?
Sorry, when you say things would be better, are you talking about atmosphere?
Atmosphere and ticket sales.
Yeah. Yes, I mean, I agree, but ultimately, the club need to remember that they haven't delivered on that. We can't do anything about whether the team win other than be the 12th man. So we're asking the club to allow us to be the 12th man, to really capitalize on the stadium, fill it, help us find our voice, help us to get behind the team. But know that we're the people who are there through thick and thin. You will get other people who'll come if we start winning again, when we start winning again, I should say, when we start winning more regularly again and playing beautiful football when we've started winning again. We are the ones that you should cherish. We are still here. We're still trying to get away tickets, even though we can't. Some of us are going to Paris, even though we still didn't manage to get a ticket. We've supported the club through thick and thin. There's been some very thick, but there is some thin, and it is thin at the moment. So value us, allow the next generation to come through, and we can help you start winning again.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant at the end there, what you say there. For me, it is a real campaign that I really believe in. I want to take my son every week. It's not affordable at the moment. I can't get him a season ticket, which is fine as a list, but for the odd game I can take him to, it's becoming far too expensive. Rachel and Mark, thank you so much. I know you say you do get shot at, and sometimes people don't always agree, but I think this really has to be a campaign that all fans should get behind. And interesting that you say the lines of communication might be improving to the club. So I really hope we can tick off all 6 of those points, but at least some of them. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you.